Good morning. I've been getting a lot of questions about how do you add resistors in parallel. And the math is a little bit challenging, but I think the concept is too. So I wanted to do a quick little lesson about why adding resistors in parallel is like it is. First thing to understand is that there are two ways to add resistors. If you have one resistor, all current to go from one side of the circuit to the other, from the positive to the negative, has to pass through that resistor. If you add a resistor in series, it's still the same way. All current has to go through the first resistor, and then all current has to go through your new resistor. But in parallel, you've actually opened up multiple pathways. Some current could go through this resistor, and some current could go through that one. So if we look at the schematic of the circuit, to go from positive to negative, you're actually offering choices. And that decreases resistance. Think about the construction project on Connecticut 161 last summer under the I-95 overpass. There were 2 lanes before they did that, and there is now. And each lane has resistance. Each lane is a resistor. Traffic can't get through there instantly. But it's so much better to have 2 of them than 1 of them. Traffic was so much worse when you closed off one of the paths. So even though these are resistors, you got to think of them as new ways to get from positive to negative. And the more ways you have, the smoother traffic would flow and the faster current's going to flow. So how do you actually add them? The equation can look daunting, but it's just one term for each resistor, and I color-coded it here to help. And you just do 1 divided by the total resistance. I think it's easy enough just to decimalize them and then add them up. And then you have to remember that it's also 1 over the total, so the last thing you do is invert it. If you have a scientific calculator, this is really straightforward. You could do it all in one big step. Just use parentheses. So we'll do parentheses 1 divided by 100 plus parentheses 1 divided by 190 plus parentheses 1 divided by 280 equals, so that's not our total resistance, but somewhere on your scientific calculator you'll probably have an invert button. Boom. So it doesn't actually take you that long to do, as long as you kind of get the muscle memory for doing it. So hopefully you understand more resistors in parallel is less resistance. And this actually has implications for safety of parallel circuits, because if you have less resistance, you start to increase the current. So if you start to add too many things in parallel, you can have too much current in your power supply. You can heat it up, because current causes heat, and possibly destroy it or start a fire. So we usually have to put something like a fuse or a circuit breaker in parallel circuits where you can connect lots of things to prevent that from happening. I hope this helped.